Israel's airstrikes have become more frequent with a focus on Hezbollah leadership. What do you make of Israel's current military strategy and its potential implications for the region?
Well, if I may just put some context on this, if we go back, it's almost a year to the date of the 7th of October attacks by Hamas on Israel. And then subsequently, what we saw was, and the continue to see, is the war on Gaza. We have seen displacement of incredible amounts of people, first and foremost within Gaza, where almost, well, more than 90% of the population is now displaced. That's 1.9 million people. As you said in your introductory remarks, another million in Lebanon, 2,000 dead now in Lebanon. And of course, the implications from the 1,200 who were killed in Israel. The issue of displacement is not lost on the Israelis themselves because of the exchanges that were happening between the Israelis and Hezbollah. People in the north of Israel had also moved to the center as people moved out from southern Lebanon. People are calling it an escalation. My view is very clear on this. What we're seeing right now is not just an escalation. The war isn't on the brink. It's actually happening right now. It's happening on the southern front for Israel. The war in Gaza continues. Operations continue there. And of course, what we've seen is now in Lebanon. Lebanon, I was there but a few months ago. A country itself, which was economically extremely challenged. It was something that needed bailouts from the International Monetary Fund. As we saw in Gaza as well, the human suffering prior to the operations and the war that Israel is currently conducting on Gaza was already desperate. And the humanitarian situation now in Gaza and, of course, now in Lebanon is dire. We have seen human tragedies unfolding, and that's what's needed right now. Is not just calls of a de-escalation, but a call for a ceasefire. I really hope that the noise and the shock of war does not take over from what's needed right now, which is effective interventions in terms of diplomacy to actually draw back from what is already unraveling as a far greater war, with the situation now unraveling with Iran as well.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, as you said, respectively, the humanitarian crisis in Lebanon is worsening by the day, with over 1 million people really displaced. What role can the international community play in providing immediate relief? And do you believe there is a window for diplomacy to prevent further escalation?
Well, one thing I'll share with you and all your viewers, 7 years as the Deputy Foreign Minister of the United Kingdom, and many years of those involved and engaged quite intensively on various diplomatic channels. And more recently, as you said again in your introduction, I was the Minister of State for the Middle East. And that meant that the interventions in terms of diplomacy, sometimes publicly, but more important, discreetly, were phenomenal. The issue of shuttle diplomacy, I lived that experience, and that's what's needed now. I take you back to about a few months ago with the then Foreign Secretary, Lord Cameron, David Cameron, who I know very well. Both of us traveled to Lebanon. The United Kingdom has been a strong partner to Lebanon, and there were positive plans underway for the Lebanese army to take over some of the southern positions. There are about 12, 13 crossing points, dispute points with Israel and Lebanon. About 7 or 8 of them had already been resolved. And there was a plan on the table to get Hezbollah to move from the south of Lebanon, north of the Litani River, to allow the Lebanese armed forces to then take up those positions. Unfortunately, tragically, that is now lost as we see Israel continuing its incursions into Lebanon. But we should not lose the sight of history, and Israel should not lose the sight of history. If I take you back to 2006, when the last incursion, the invasion happened from Israel, how did it end? Israel had to withdraw. But equally so, we saw those people it was targeting at that time, the PLO, came to the table. There was a negotiation that was made. And right now, what we desperately need, and that's where the United Kingdom, key Arab partners, the United States, and others have an immensely important role to play, that whatever lever they possess in terms of diplomacy,